Welcome into a May 1st edition of Daily Faceoff Live. And as the calendar turns to a new month, the intensity in the Stanley Cup playoffs just gets cranked up a little bit more. The show, as always, is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app, use the code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We are live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. And as always, looking for your inbox questions. But Frank, 4 Game 6s on tap tonight. I mean, I guess you could say it could potentially be better if they were 4 Game 7s, but nonetheless should be exciting.
Elimination day, or is it?
Or is it? We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to have our friend Jon Goyens back on the show. He's going to give us a breakdown of some of the key sort of pillars in the Avs and Stars series. But first, Frank, let's kick things off with the Florida Panthers, finishing off the Battle of Florida in just 5 games. And listen, I was someone who backed the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series. That was my pick. And honestly, it's not one of those where I even fully regret my pick, if that sounds weird, because I liked my line of thinking. It was like, okay, this Florida team is banged up. They've played a lot of hockey as of late. I think it's going to be a very tight series, so I'll give the edge to the healthier team that hasn't gone to 2 Stanley Cup finals, that maybe will have their legs a little bit more here. And also, I thought they had an advantage between the pipes with Andrei Vasilevskiy. And all that to say, I'm just so impressed by the way this Florida team just starts the Stanley Cup playoffs and seemingly flips a switch and goes.
It's such an interesting way to say I'm wrong. I mean, I'm laughing because they're like, well, I like my process. And I'm like, well, either that or you were just sleeping on the Cats. Because, look, yeah, we hadn't seen this full version of the Florida Panthers. Matthew Tkachuk hadn't played since Four Nations Faceoff, and you're wondering about his health. Will he be able to be a true impact piece? But I just look at the additions that they made to this group over the course of the year, and you think about some of their big-time playoff players and Sam Bennett and, Seth Jones strengthening this team on the back end and all these different things that went into it. I'm like, why are more people not picking the Panthers? Like, they felt like a team that was undervalued, if that's even possible, for one that's the defending Cup champs. And I certainly didn't have it playing out this way in 5 games, but am I surprised to see the Panthers moving on? No. And I think what you can make after this is a very clear declaration that they're the team to beat in the East, that once again, for the 3rd year in a row, the Eastern Conference runs through South Florida.
Yeah, for what would it be then? The 5th or 6th year in a row, the Eastern Conference just runs through the state of Florida in general, with the Bolts and Cats basically always being in the Cup final. But it'll be Florida who will be continuing, I guess, to try and defend their Stanley Cup title. They are on to round 2. We'll obviously have a lot to talk about them in the coming days, but how about for Tampa Bay? Obviously, a lot of talk about Jon Cooper and his future, and it's something you've hinted at a little bit over the last couple of weeks, Frank, but now that they're officially gone, Jon Cooper, the idea that he could leave the organization where he won 2 Stanley Cups, is that a smoke, fire, or false alarm, I guess?
I would say that it's a smoke, and I think it's on both ends, on the Tampa Bay Lightning end, and it's on probably in Jon Cooper's world. This is a natural point of inflection. Your team has now lost 3 first-round series in a row. You've had so much success over your 12-year tenure as the longest tenured guy in the league. You've nearly coached 1,000 regular season games with one team, which almost no one does anymore, given that the average NHL tenure is 2.3 years, which is impossibly low. And you've done all of that. So now the big question is, what's next? Jon Cooper's not someone that's going to sit back and smoke a cigar by his pool and just enjoy life in Tampa, which few people are better at enjoying life than Jon Cooper anyway. But he wants to be challenged. This is a guy who took a very different path to the NHL. He was a corporate lawyer. He was a college Division I lacrosse player. He's been all these different things. So why wouldn't he continue to evolve and be something else? What's the next challenge for Jon Cooper? Maybe, and maybe just maybe, the challenge for him is to figure out the puzzle for this Lightning team and to get them back into contention where they're advancing in the playoffs. But maybe Julien BriseBois sitting there, who's had a very cutthroat vision when it comes to not just trading draft picks, but also making changes in his front office. Maybe it's just time. And so I'm not projecting. I'm just saying that's where the conversation comes from. And that's why I believe that there's smoke there and we could see fire, because this is a natural time to sit back and ask some of these questions.
It's really interesting. Yeah, the idea that he could move into a management role. And then, I mean, I was talking about this with some people yesterday, and it's like, would he make a good GM? Like, yeah, probably. But then you see the fire and the passion he had behind that bench at different moments in the series of Florida. And it's like, man, how could that guy not want to be behind a bench? Like, that's where he belongs. And you saw him yelling and fist pumping. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I also kind of felt like they rolled over a bit at the end of this series. I mean, they blew that lead, and then game 5 was just
Yeah, fair. Let's go to the other series that ended last night. And as much as I kind of said, like, hey, I understood and I liked my line of thinking in the Florida Tampa series, basically from after game 1, I was like, why did I pick the Montreal Canadiens? And listen, they put up a really good fight, but I just think it was clear who the better team was in that series. And it was clear in game 5 that the Capitals were ready to go pedal to the floor. A 4-1 victory for the Washington Capitals in a series where I think they answered a lot of questions. You know, how would some of their young players who've never played in the playoffs stand out? And I thought a guy like Connor McMichael was still really, really effective in this series. And the OV goal record hangover, well, he scored 4 goals in the 5 games, Frank. I liked what I saw from the Caps.
Yeah, I think as much as this series had the same score as game 5, I kind of think it's really hard to take a step back and say that this series was as lopsided as a 4-1 5-game series might appear to be. I mean, Montreal took them to OT in game 1. Game 3, they won. Game 2, they nearly tied in the third period. They blew a third period lead in game 4. And the most lopsided game of the series from a territorial standpoint, shots, goals, everything, was game 5. So it's a two-part thing. Like, yes, Montreal pushed them, but this was supposed to be easy for the Caps. They have much more experience. They have a much bigger team, a team that scored at ease all year. And the Canadiens didn't have their starting goalie for the last 2 games. So, look, I kind of look at it not glass half full or glass half empty. I know the Caps are excited and thrilled to move on. You get 5 games and you make relatively quick work of it. Everyone needs that. But I don't know that they necessarily changed my opinion about them or put together a really impressive enough round to say that I think that's a team that can go the distance.
Yeah, and now they get to add another chapter to their rivalry with the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll obviously preview that series in the coming days. On the flip side, for the Montreal Canadiens, do you think that front office with Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, do they sit there and go, wow, we got some guys on cheap contracts, Demidov, Hudson, the ELCs and all of that. Do you think there's any incentive for them to get a little bit more aggressive here and maybe speed up, not the rebuild, or speed up their process a little bit? Or do they sit there and go, no, stay the course, we know what we're doing?
Stay the course. They'll be patient. They've got a really exciting team. This is the youngest team to ever qualify for the postseason at an average age of 25. They've got a thrilling power play with all the pieces and firepower that they have. They've got other defensemen still en route in Reinbacher and Logan Mailloux. They actually might even have too many defensemen if that's possible. And Sam Montembeault looks like a pretty legit piece in net. I like what the Canadiens have assembled. I think the future is very bright, but that also doesn't mean that this is going to be a linear thing and it's just going to be, okay, round 1, round 2. The playoffs are no guarantee next year, and they do deserve a lot of credit for this year, though. One of the most fun teams to watch, and also a serious amount of stick-to-itiveness because they were dead last in the East on December 1st.
Yeah, it is something. And I like the point you made today on the DFO rundown with Gregor, where you said, man, Dylan Larkin was talking about how we didn't get any help. We didn't get any help. We didn't get into the playoffs. And Montreal, I mean, they did it with those guys in the room. That makes it all the more impressive. So they have Yeah. They have multiple draft picks in each of the first 4 rounds in this upcoming NHL draft. So it could be an interesting summer in Montreal. Let's go to the Battle of Ontario, Frank. Let's head a little bit west from Montreal. The Leafs. There's a part of me that goes, hey, maybe they come out tonight and they roll the Ottawa Senators and we laugh and go, okay, maybe they weren't really all that close to blowing it after it all. And I guess maybe my question, because even if the Leafs do win, they have to stare down the barrel of a matchup with the Florida Panthers, a team that swept them previously. Is there anything the Leafs can do today to prove to you that they truly are different, or have they already shown you that they're still just the same old Leafs? It's tough.
No, there's nothing that they can do to prove to me. I mean, look, here's the thing. Again, I'm going to reiterate the same thing that I said about the Caps. This was supposed to be easy. This was the easy matchup in the bracket. This is the team that you should wipe your hands of and move along. And when you have a 3-0 series lead and you're potentially talking about game 7, well, that's on you. And when you have the firepower that you have and you get shut out in game 5, that's because it's not a clinching scenario, but you've made it a clenching scenario. 1-13 in the opportunities to close out a series. 0 for 30 on the power play in those games to close out a series. Mitch Marner, 5 points, no goals in 16 games 5 through 7 in his career. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, William Nylander, point per game players in the NHL. Their numbers go like this when it matters most in the meat of a series. Look, it can be different. That's the best part about life, is that you have an ability every day to write a new story, to tell a new tale, to change the narrative. How many times are we going to see this team do the same thing time after time? I'm not picking them. I didn't pick them. I picked the Sens because I refuse to pick them until we see something different. And we have yet to see anything different, as much as the first couple games of this series look totally different for a team that had all the composure in the world.
Exactly. First 2 games, we were talking here, mature, they're different, all this, that. And now you sit here and you go, no, they got too high on themselves again. They took their foot off the gas. And once they face a little bit of pressure, they absolutely crumble. So listen, even if they win tonight, I agree with you. I'm not suddenly going to go up and be like, oh, they're going to roll the Florida Panthers. Here come the Leafs, baby. It's no, they're going to have a whole nother thing to prove to me in round 2, should they get there. And I do think, Frank, from the Sens perspective, I love Brady Tkachuk on the ice after game 4 saying we'll be back. And they are back. And for Sens fans, I really do think this crowd is going to have way more red in it than it has previously. I can't imagine there's a lot of Leafs fans going. So from that perspective, I'm happy for those fans in Ottawa that they get one more chance in their building this year.
And by the way, Linus Ullmark has been hot. He's gotten better and better as this series has gone along. He's fully capable of winning game 6 all on his own. And so we'll see what happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, lots of reasons to be optimistic, but not many reasons in my book to be optimistic that this team, when it gets even harder next round against a really good team like Florida, the name of the game isn't win a round and be satisfied. The name of the game is to win a Stanley Cup. And until you're in a conference final, a cup final, you don't even know what you don't know.
Yeah. It's a great point. 1 game 6 in the East, 3 of them in the West. We're going to talk Dallas and Colorado with Jon Goyens in a moment, Frank, but I want you to give me one big thing for the other series that are going on tonight and are playing in an elimination game. Let's start because he's pictured with Connor McDavid and the Oilers taking on the LA Kings, looking for their 4th consecutive victory. What is one big thing that will decide tonight's matchup between the Oil and the Kings?
How clean the Edmonton Oilers play. That's it. They dominated and controlled play in game 5 in one of the most lopsided games of the entire playoffs. I was bullish on the Oilers in the back half of the series once they miraculously got it to 2-2, because that's all they really needed to do was knuckle down for a game and a half or 2 games if you get greedy. The Kings at the same exact moment in time are feeling like their whole season and world has unraveled right in front of their eyes. They had the Oilers exactly where they wanted him, and they've let it slip through their grasp, and they've gotten crushed by some of the best players in the world. I don't see the Kings magically putting it back together again, and I see the Oilers seizing an opportunity in game 6.
Yeah, I like the way Chris put it in our YouTube chat. He said, hopefully the Oilers don't play with their food tonight and step on the Kings' throat early. And listen, it's been 5 straight periods now of the Oilers pretty much just dominating the LA Kings. If they can make it a 6th and the Kings are going back into the same locker room that they've gone into in 2 of the last 3 years when they've been eliminated, there's no way those ghosts don't start to haunt them just a little bit. So I do think the start tonight is important for the Kings. I think they need to find a way to generate more quality chances on Calvin Pickard. Against Stuart Skinner in the first 2 games, their expected goals were 4.5 and 4.09. They have not gotten higher than 3.19 in either of the last 3 games now, including last game where their expected goals for were 1.67. Let's go to Minnesota and Vegas. My one big thing for this one, Frank, if I'm the Wild, I'm sitting there going, hey, just stay the course. Keep playing the way we've been playing. We've been the better team. Trust you're going to get some bounces. What are you looking for between the Wild and Golden Knights?
Will the Vegas Golden Knights top players show up again? Jack Eichel finally got a couple points in the last game, first multi-point game of the playoffs. They got some luck and some help with the offside challenge that kind of saved their season, so to speak, because it was probably over at that point in time. And now with that new life, will they take advantage and put the dagger to the Wild? Because they're a tough out. It's a physical, big, nasty team to play against. And they've also had their top end talent, quite frankly, be way better than the Vegas Golden Knights in this series.
Yeah, Kaprizov and Boldy, we've touched on it a lot. They've been absolutely remarkable. While they're going to need them to both be good tonight and likely need Philip Gustafsson to be good as well, assuming he gets the start for the Wild. Let's continue this conversation and get to our big segment for the day. It's brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Check out a large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds and mined diamonds. You can even apply for a Charm Diamond Flexity card today and get approved for no interest financing on your purchase in minutes. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. The one series in the West we haven't dug into yet, the Avs on the brink against the Dallas Stars. And as they look to extend the series and force a seventh game, let's start with this Avs team. And listen, their power play with all that talent they have, John, I think people would expect it to not just produce at a high percentage, but produce in the right moments. And that really hasn't been the case. What's been stopping the Avs, and why has this Avs power play been unable to score at key times on the power play?
And it's really, really important to emphasize that is the timing of goals. Even in the regular season, at times you see teams' percentages inflated in games where they score when it doesn't really matter. They might even get an empty net power play goal here and there. The issue is when it seems like the game is on the line, like the opportunity to, say, bury Dallas. They've had two games where they've had power plays that were at the end of a third period that bled into an OT. Opportunities for the kill shot. All of a sudden, they go from highly skilled and highly poised to forcing bad decisions, forcing bad passes, forcing shots from range without net presence. And all of a sudden, they don't seem to be playing well with the game on the line and the puck on their stick. So let's fire up some of these clips because the examples are relatively abundant where they've had opportunities to potentially have already won this series. Oh, we're on the
we need the Avs power play. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. See, like right here, you're late in the game, 3-3, and that's a 40-plus foot shot without any net presence. Here, Joe Drouin is going to circle up a little too high, right? And he would have had all that space to create, and instead he comes up too high, then forces a bad pass. Your mid-third period, 1-1 game, you can put the nail in the coffin. All that time and space for Nathan MacKinnon, and he likes to roll in that pocket of space, doesn't take the opportunity. And what happens, now they get to the perimeter, and Dallas is like, perfect, we'll go into our whatever stance they're going to use, the diamond, the box at times, and we're going to force you guys to play your power play on the perimeter. And then it becomes one and done. Again, here's game 3. Opportunity, and look where Nate MacKinnon, if he wasn't so focused on getting to his spot, he had a tap in, and that's where they've got to think more about just free flowing and get to areas. Here, Nate MacKinnon goes around, forced this pass, not sure why, this isn't in his MO, but all of a sudden he forces that bad pass, and we know what's happened in 2 overtimes is that Dallas has been able to kill PKs. That's led to Dallas scoring twice on the power play. We saw Joe Drouin get an opportunity. He skies it on the exact same power play. They roll this out, shot, and here is Lehkonen. Puck, game on his stick, and he misses the net. These are opportunities to have potentially be up in this series or have won this series, and they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, there's been no shortage of those opportunities, John, and I would say the fascinating thing in looking at your clips as you struggle to get centered is that Nathan MacKinnon, he actually does make mistakes. He's yelling at everyone else all the time on the Colorado Avalanche bench. I don't see anyone ever give it back to him. And that's just me offering my opinion. I think it's contributed to their situation. No doubt that he wants to win and he's one of the best players in the world. But I think that wears on guys when you get to a certain point in time that you're the one that's constantly barking and yet you're not playing perfect yourself. What do you think about that as a coach?
Poise is not just on the ice. It's when you get back to the room. It's when you get back to the bench. And you've got to be players, I believe, need to have ownership on a power play unit that really does really, really well at long term and has great goals at opportune times. But I agree with you, Frank. It can't be a one-sided conversation. Somebody's got to be able to tell them, like, hey, you can't force that shot. Settle it down. You can't force that pass. Settle it down. Let's get reset. So there's the balance between quick strikes and setups, but you can't be barking at everybody and getting everybody on edge.
Okay, so speaking of opportune goals, I don't know how else you explain a Dallas Stars series where I think through 4 games they led for a total of 62 seconds, yet we're all square. How much for Dallas has this series not just been scoring, but scoring at the exact right time?
That's all it's really been. I mean, you pointed out that they've barely led at any point in this series, and it's just been timely goals, whether it be on the power play, whether it be early in periods, late in periods, or obviously after killing PKs in overtime and getting 2 overtime winners, and not necessarily your usual suspects. It's not always the big dogs. It's been really spread out. So it's had a massive, massive impact, and it must drive the Colorado coaches nuts because that's coach speak, right? You don't want to give up a goal early in a period. You don't want to give up a goal late in the period. And it just seems that Dallas has been able to execute at the most opportune times to put themselves up 3-2 in this series going into Game 6. So let's let these clips roll, and it'll be clearly identified. Look 1-0 down. They're on a power play. Real simple. Here's poise play. That's the difference right there, right? They've got one more power play goal than Colorado, but it's the poise and the timing of some of those goals. Here, Colorado can't get it out. They win the net front battle, tied up midway point of the 3rd period in Game 2. We know how that game plays out because here's the game winner by Colin Blackwell. And this was after, again, killing off a double minor going into overtime. That's massive. Here you go, another one. Power play, mid-3rd period. Again, you're down 1-0. And look at the poise of this play. Granlund to Ben, back to Harley, back to Ben. You got net presence, and you got some creativity in how you execute this play. What does that lead to? Well, it leads to overtime. And overtime, you got Tyler Seguin, who's barely played this year, right down after killing a PK once again and bearing the game winner. And here you go. 8 seconds, not 9. I know it was reported 9, but it's 8 seconds right off the zone entry. And that's a bad goal by Blackwood to give up early in the game. Final minute of the 1st period. You don't want to go in the room 1-0 when you have an opportunity to go up 2-0. You can't be giving up a 4-on-2 rush in the final minute of the period. And here, early in the 2nd period, so we're talking about a total of not even 2 minutes apart of game play, and Dallas is able to go on a 4-on-2, a 3-on-2 to score, to get that 3-0 lead. And then when they're down in Game 5, it's again a late period goal and a power play goal, and they're able to elevate that puck and execute and put Colorado maybe not on their heels, but in a bit of a nervous state.
So I don't even know if you showed the last goal in the last minute of the 1st period of Game 2, which also kind of set them on that course to come back in the game after they had nothing going in that 1st period. But the flip side of this, John, is that it's not just about the team scoring at key times. Why are the Colorado Avalanche giving up so much at inopportune moments?
So there's been moments, and we saw like that 4-on-2 late in the period. They actually turn over the puck, and a couple guys go for a skate. You can't play with hope in your game, right? You guys laugh sometimes when I say hope and poke and those types of things, but it's reality. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not going to get you that 6-pack in the gym, right? You need to be where you need to be above pucks. You need to reduce odd man rushes against. And I find that there's a a little bit of a cheating mentality that's putting them in the state of odd man rushes against at really awful times that Dallas is capitalizing on.
Damn.
John, appreciate your time. Do you think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, I thought I could get a 6-pack that easy.
What's one thing you need to see from the Avs tonight then if they're going to keep this series and their season alive?
They just can't squeeze the stick and force bad plays, both at 5-on-5 with the puck and without the puck, and the power play. It's just got to be more direct, and you just got to get more guys on the interior to potentially pump in some rebounds.
John, good having you back on the show. Appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, guys.
Cale Makar, no 5v5 points. Brock Nelson, Marty Natchez both held without a goal so far for the Colorado Avalanche. All right, Frank, I got a couple Ask DFOs I want to throw your way. One from the chat. What's been your biggest surprise of the first round so far?
That Connor Hellebuck has basically continued the narrative much in the same way that the Leafs have with their star players. Why can't they get over the hump? I mean, I called the Jets earlier this year the Leafs of the West because they've had so many spectacular regular seasons, but so little to show for it in the playoffs with this core. And the fact that Hellebuck got through the first 4 games of the series with an .817 save percentage, then game 5, which they end up winning kind of in spite of him, some of the goals that he's given up have just been absolutely perplexing.
Yeah, it has been really, that one yesterday on the ice was just, man. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you this. What did you make of the war of words between Jim Montgomery and Scott O'Neill? Montgomery talking about Mark Scheifele getting injured after taking a couple of big hits.
The number one rule, or one of the rules that coaches should have, is never talk about the opposition's player. I'm not saying like you can't give him flowers if you had a great night. And I thought it was super classy that Spencer Carberry said what he did last night about David Savard as he wrapped up his career, but there's no need to speculate at any point about another team's players and their actions.
Yeah, I agree with you, and waiting to hear more on Mark Scheifele. No supplemented discipline for those hits either, and I do think that's the right call as well. Let's get to our daily bets for today. They are brought to you by Bet365, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game props, player props, totals, money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, the Stanley Cup champion, and much, much more. Whatever you bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. The slate tonight, you got underdogs in the Kings, the Stars, the Wild, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I am tempted to grab the Leafs as moneyline underdogs, but the one bet I like the most, it's clutch time for Connor McDavid. Give me 2 points for Connor McDavid and the Oilers money line at plus 130. Not necessarily a very juicy value bet. Would love for it to be a little bit higher, but Connor and the Oilers to win an elimination game, Frank.
I like that. I think if you're going to do that, probably find a way to parlay it with something else. And I mean, how amazing is it that the Ottawa Senators are favorites in this game? This is a team 3-2 series lead. Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, hey, if you think the Leafs and their Stars can find a way to get it done, you could go Austin Matthews anytime goal scorer and the Leafs win, and it's almost at plus 400.
Well, I think the one thing you probably wouldn't be doing is Mitch Marner anytime goal scorer and a Leafs win. 0 goals, 16 games, games 5 through 7 in a series. How?
Yeah. William Nylander is actually the one of that group who's been like relatively clutch. He's plus 190 tonight. I don't hate that either. Let's get to garbage time for the day, Frank. And you had a chance to sit down with Logan Couture on the heels of his retirement announcement the other day. And you talked to him about a number of things, but one of them just being his career coming to an end and having the end taken away from him instead of deciding his own fate. Here's a sneak preview.
You know, I think there's this notion out there from fans that, you know, hear a story like yours and see that you missed a chunk of time and they say, oh, look, he's getting paid out the years on his contract. Not a big deal. He's set for life and all that, you know, that might be true. But the pain and then also the mental side of it that we just talked about. Like, you're a competitive guy. Like, you want to be on the ice, you want to be playing. These are some prime years still left in your career, theoretically. And then the other part of it, not being able to call your shot, to go out on your own terms. How did you kind of sift through that process the last number of months and ultimately to getting to a point where you make that announcement a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I played hockey since I was 3 years old. It's all I've really known how to do, and I'm dying to get back out and play. It's difficult to watch when you're used to playing and competing and being around the guys, and you lose that camaraderie. And there's so much more that comes with playing hockey than just going on the ice. So I'll miss that, but. Yeah, I mean, I've sacrificed my body over the years. I've had multiple surgeries. I've lost almost all my teeth, 35 stitches in my face. It's a grind playing the game of hockey. And eventually it happens to athletes where their bodies just break down. So it's not like I'm sitting at home with my feet up counting money. I would love to be playing in the NHL still and helping the San Jose Sharks.
Frank, what else did you take away from your interview with Logan Couture?
Just super raw. Like, he doesn't beat around the bush. Like, he tells you exactly what he's thinking and what he's feeling. And I think it is really difficult. I don't know that people realize the pain that these guys go through, what we ask them to do on a night-to-night basis as competitors and warriors, like, all for everyone's enjoyment. It takes a toll. Like he said, the last few years I've had trouble getting out of bed. I need help getting out of bed. I can't play golf. I can't work out. I can't exercise. There's a lot of things that he can't do. And I don't know that we have a full appreciation for that as fans of the game. We think about it. We hear it from time to time. We see it, but it's another thing to go live it.
Yeah, 100%. Great interview. People can find it on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, premiering later on today. That is a wrap on today's edition of the show. 4 teams could be seeing their seasons come to a close tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Should be an unbelievable evening of playoff hockey action. Enjoy it all, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at noon Eastern. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Seravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.